Strap in, fellas, because this is the real deal. Yes, we're taking a look at a genuine 4K HDR glossy gaming monitor you can buy today. And if that sounds good, it's because it is. But whether or not it's a good choice for you, you'll definitely want to watch the whole video to find out, especially considering there's definitely been some issues with these displays in the past, which we'll absolutely be discussing at the end of the video. But first, we actually got to review the thing. So this display we're looking at today is the Spectrum One Glossy from Dough, which was sent to me by Dough for this review, so thank you guys for that. But of course, that's not going to change my opinion. And this is a 3840 by 2160 144Hz 27-inch HDR gaming monitor, which right away in terms of the build quality honestly blows away every single other monitor I've been reviewing for quite some time. It feels great, it looks great, the stand is excellent, it's got some great ports, of which you do get HDMI 2.1, but pause the video if you want to know absolutely everything that's available on it. And you can also do firmware updates over USB as well. And yes, it is VESA mount compatible, so everything's looking good there. And at a price of $699 for the glossy version, and we're not even going to discuss the price of the matte version because nobody should buy it. It's honestly, for what you're getting, I would consider this a very good price point. Now, in terms of the color, my first impressions of this are, wow, the colors really just pop off of the screen. And a huge part of that comes from the glossy finish, which does definitely lead to a much more vibrant and real looking image coming off of that display. It also leads to better perceivable contrast as well as a much crisper image overall, which quite frankly absolutely blows away every single matte monitor on the market. But in terms of the actual accuracy of the color, it's not too bad out of the box. It's lacking a little bit in the red department there, as you can see, but it does do a pretty good job of tracking the EOTF curve in SDR, although I was able to improve upon it and get it to be nearly perfect after some adjustments, which I will have all my calibrations as well as ICC profile linked in the description below in my Patreon, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I do highly recommend it. And then in terms of HDR, you don't get to adjust this quite as much, but it's actually pretty decent out of the box, though of course not perfect. Now in terms of color volume, in SDR, it's actually pretty good, getting over 90% DCI-P3, and likewise, same deal in HDR as well. But in terms of the brightness, what does it look like? Because that is a big deal in HDR, and here you can see that in terms of a 100% window, it's in the middle of the pack when it comes to 4K monitors that I've tested, but it is overall very, very bright. It looks very good. Also in a 10% window, while it is closer to the bottom of the pack here, it's still, in my opinion, pretty good overall. Definitely not bad. Now, in terms of the max brightness you get in a game, once again, a little bit closer to the middle of the pack, looking pretty good. It is getting up there with some mini LED monitors, though I will mention this is actually edge-lit, so unfortunately that means you won't have the same amount of contrast that you get in mini LED or OLED, as it will have to light up the scene in vertical bands, which can lead to situations where things that should be black aren't quite black. But now moving on to the minimum brightness, and here it is a little bit disappointing, coming in at 0.26 nits, and I think this is due to that edge-lit design not having the full mini LED array, and that does lead to a contrast ratio of 2,915 to 1 is what I measured, which is decent, but not fantastic. Now in terms of blooming, it's not amazing either because of the edge-lit design, but I didn't find it to be really bad. Now moving on to the latency results here, and as you can see, it does actually get some pretty good results. It's just behind some 240Hz monitors, so that's pretty good to see. You could definitely use this for some light competitive gaming, and I was able to overclock it to 150Hz if you really want to, but that requires a lot of work, so I don't really recommend it. And then moving on to the UFO motion performance test, here you can see that at 144Hz, it's decent, it's not great. It's LCD based technology, so it's a little bit blurry there, especially when compared to a 240Hz OLED on the right. And then 120Hz actually isn't too much worse, so this tells me that it's kind of on the edge whether or not it should even really be a 144Hz panel. And then 60Hz, you can definitely see LCD not doing too hot. You definitely want to be getting around 100 frames per second or higher on this display to be fully enjoying it to its maximum potential. But in terms of text quality, here's where it is really, really strong, guys, because As you can see, the text is crystal clear, there's no fringing, and there's no blurring, thanks to it using a glossy finish. Also, the viewing angles I felt were pretty good overall for an LCD. And then in terms of the uniformity, another situation where it wasn't too impressive. You can definitely see in the four corners, it does have some light bleed. Now, there is one other thing about this monitor that's really cool, is that the OSD has a lot of cool features, such as you can customize the overdrive, and it also does have backlight strobing. I didn't mess around too much with the backlight strobing because I find backlight strobing can give me headaches. However, as you can see on screen right now, if you do spend some time really adjusting it, you can get some really amazing results and get a really clear picture in motion, although there will be a little bit of some crosstalk going on. So it's not gonna look, in my opinion, still as good as something like OLED, which might have a little bit more blurring, but isn't gonna have that crosstalk. Now, there was one issue I did run across with this monitor. I don't know if this is a problem with AMD drivers or if it's something to do with the monitor, but sometimes when the monitor would wake up or swap between HDR over HDMI, the refresh rate would kind of get out of sync or something. It was a little bit weird, but over DisplayPort, not an issue at all, so I've just been using DisplayPort. But overall, guys, I actually am gonna be maining this monitor going forward, because until we get the glossy OLEDs coming out next year, this is the closest thing on the market that I've found thus far to something that I would actually really like to run. It's so clear, it's so crisp, it's so vibrant, it's honestly got pretty great contrast despite the fact that it's not even mini LED, that overall I really enjoy using this monitor, and I would like to recommend this because I think it's one of the better monitors on the market. But this does come with a caveat, because Dough as a company, especially when they were called Eve, seems to have had some issues delivering on some of their monitors or refunding people, allegedly. Now, this is based on a lot of reports online. You can go ahead and look it up. So that does make me a little bit nervous to recommend them. Keep that in mind. However, you can purchase them now through, I believe, B&H, and I think at one point they're on Amazon, although I don't know if they are anymore, so you might want to go ahead and check. I will have it linked in the description below if that's the case. But if you do purchase from them, say through B&H or Amazon or something like that, wherever they're available on a third-party website which has great return policies and customer service, and you're using a credit card, I probably wouldn't be too worried. However, purchasing straight from their website, I just straight up would not recommend doing, simply due to the fact that they've had some issues in the past. Now, I reached out to them and wanted to get some comments from them on this, and they basically told me, hey, we're working to refund people, and we're delivering upon all our stuff now. I mean, whether or not they are or not, the only thing we can do is essentially take their word and watch to see if that does turn out to be true. But this is why I'm so frustrated, because the product itself is really good, and I want this company to do well because they're making excellent products, both in terms of like the build quality, as well as they're delivering glossy displays, which give us far better quality than other stuff that's available on the market. So I really want this to become a business that can make more and more glossy displays. But when there's been issues in the past, it is difficult for me to recommend these products, even when they're so good. So despite the fact that this is a really good monitor, I will say I recommend the product, but be careful where you purchase it from, and do keep in mind some of these issues they've had in the past, and be sure to read other people's recent reviews before making your decision. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, Rupro has you covered with their certified 8K HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes of up to 50 feet and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And with 48 gigabits per second of bandwidth, it can easily drive 8K 60 FPS or 4K 144 FPS 10-bit HDR video through its ultra-thin, flexible, and durable housing, and it even supports ER. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out Rupro on Amazon today.